Hello, this is Why Aren't You Reading? We are reviewing Bitterroot. Bitterroot is an alternate reality, sort of steampunk monster hunting adventure for the family of Sangriers in the 1930s Harlem. This is a book written by David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, art by Sanford Green. Hopefully you enjoy our review. Hello, welcome to another edition of Why Aren't You Reading? I'm Chandler.
I'm Cydney.
John is not here, very busy with stuff for the new location, which we are currently filming from. Very excited for that. Hopefully we'll be opening that very shortly. Today we are reviewing a book called Bitterroot. It's written by David Walker and Chuck Brown, art by Sanford Green. It's kind of a story about 1930s Harlem with a twist of that the world's kind of being overrun by monsters, and the Sangrier family is monster hunters, and they're trying to prevent that, or at least squelch, I don't know, or at least calm the storm of the tide of monsters that are coming over. There's increasingly more and more, and they're trying to at least keep their little part of Harlem safe. So overall, what'd you think of the book, Cydney? Did you like it?
I really liked it. I think that it was a really cool story that I always love when it's sort of like a vibrant kind of coloring, like color style and like aesthetic. I think that the art style is amazing. I think that the story was really fascinating, and something that I haven't really seen before. So, and also it's got people of color cast, and I think that was really cool too. So.
Absolutely. I mean, definitely I think the art plays a big part when you have something like monsters being an overwhelming part of your story. I think if the art doesn't really sell that, or you don't really feel immersed in the world that you're in, it kind of makes it hard to continue reading. But I think, Sanford Green does a really good job with all the things in here. He gets to be really creative with the monsters called Genu that are in the book. A lot of different fun things to draw, which I'm not an artist, but if I was, I imagine this would be a really fun challenge that he gets issued. So going into the book, like I said, there's a family of monster hunters, the Sangrier family. There are several members to the family. However, there used to be a lot more, but because their line of work is monster hunting, it's dangerous, and a lot of them have been killed off, and some of them have just simply gone their separate ways over disagreements about how to continue hunting monsters, or just about issues that have happened in the past. But we meet about 6 or 7 members of the surviving family. Of those 7, which one of those characters stood out to you? Which one did you like the best?
Okay, so that's kind of hard because they're all really cool, but I think I really enjoyed Blink. I think that she was just super cool. But also like Berg, I think that he was just like awesome, just because he's very like calm and collected, and he speaks very like eloquently, and then he like when he finally does like have this big thing happen to him, I don't know if we're allowed to spoil things. Probably not.
Probably not.
Okay, well, a big thing happens to him. He's still very composed and is like very like able-bodied, and is like, I'm still kind of here. Let's fix this. And I just think that that's really cool that he wasn't. I don't know. He just was a very very thoughtful kind of character, and I thought he was really cool.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely some interesting things. I think, like you said, Blink, I think, has the potential for the... I've only read this first book. There's more issues out, but I think she has the potential to be a really strong female character, which is always exciting to see. But especially in a family like this, where you have a family of monster hunters, where each character kind of has a bigger personality and stands out for themselves, she still has, makes you interested, even though despite the grandmother's best wishes of keeping her out of monster fighting, she definitely wants to do it, and as we see in the book, might be the most capable of doing so.
Yeah.
But, because a lot of the family has died doing it, grandma, understandably so, does not want her to take that line of work and prefer she stayed. I really like Ford. I think it's always cool when you have this kind of standoff on their own character that kind of has to like take on the world by themselves, and he's kind of put himself in that position, whereas they sort of capture monsters and try to kind of cure them with the roots, hence the name of the book, Bitterroot. He's more of like we can't cure this thing, the best we can do is damage control, so he just has taken the approach of, I'm just going to kill every monster I see, and, if you guys don't like it, fine. And he's kind of left Harlem as Alf, kind of doing his own thing. And he's just a really cool character with, these awesome futuristic, but in the past somehow, kind of like Star Wars, where you don't question it, it just is what it is, and he's shooting all these monsters, and definitely has this kind of like cool, just awesome type of character feel to him that I'd be interested to see a lot more of him, where even when he comes back and there's a big fight going on, he's still just like, yeah, I don't care, I'm going to do everything how I want to do it. But I think it's important to mention the monsters that we talked about, the Genu. They're not just regular monsters that have come from somewhere. They were people that have kind of taken this transformation, which not 100% sure exactly how the science works on that, but essentially from what they say in the book, when you have this hatred or especially like murder or something in your heart, that stems a lot from racism, which, as we said, this is an African-American family in Harlem. A lot of it stems from racism, and once you have enough of that, it kind of turns you, and you just sort of this werewolf-like transformation, and you just become this monster. Hence, the family takes different roots and stuff to make concoctions to try to cure these people, since they are still people, to bring them back to their human form.
I mean,
thoughts?
Yeah, you put it, very well. I think that it was a very interesting concept when it comes to the Genu, and especially just how their different tactics and how they want to handle it, because just like anytime there is some sort of like prejudice or issues, societal wise, there are so many different actions that people want to take. Some people are more radical with their approaches. Some people are a little bit more like, let's try to teach people. And I like that you can kind of see that there is this sort of divide within the family of how they're supposed to do this correctly. Because we have one that is like kind of secluded, and like I believe it's like the uncle, and he like does his own kind of like weird sort of alchemy kind of stuff over there, and they're like, that's crazy. And then they have their thing where they're like beating up roots, and then they have another one that's just like, let's just exterminate them. And so like I think it's really, and then there's like the whole fighting aspect, or like, well, we'll just beat it out of them and things like that. And I think that it's really intriguing to kind of watch this dynamic and see how, while they're all kind of fighting for the same cause, they're just handling it in different ways. So I did find that like one of the most interesting parts, and especially like once they do find, like when some of them try to cure them, I mean, like, I don't know, they're setting them back out into the world again, kind of with this knowledge of like, this was a bad thing, like do better. I think that was really cool with the relationship, I guess, with like Ford and then that one guy. What was his name?
I don't think he has a name.
I don't think he ever mentioned his name.
Nameless, racist white guy.
Yeah, but then I guess, I mean, he probably was...
He comes around.
He comes around.
He's a good egg. He's just got bad parenting.
Yeah. And you can still see that they're not like, just like, oh, since you did this bad thing, you're written off. He's like, kind of like, here, let me show you what happens to people when you're overcome with this just too much of that bad. And then that guy comes around and ends up helping them in the end. So I think that's kind of cool.
I agree. I think it's definitely, it's good to point out where this book can, from an outside source, okay, well, this book seems like it might be black people versus white people, and that white people are monsters, when it's really more of just good versus kind of evil and prejudice incarnate, not necessarily any certain color. The whole form of these monsters come from when you have this hatred and prejudice, and it even says murder. It's not necessarily specific to that, but that's a large thing, especially since this book is taking place in sort of a maybe not on our earth or off-kilter 1930s, where obviously this, as far as we know, unless the government covered up, this did not happen in the 1930s in Harlem. But it's more of a prejudiced evil hatred versus good and moral stuff. So it's definitely not as off-putting or overly, racial divide as it might seem on the outcome, which I thought was nice, because I wasn't 100% sure before reading, because I wasn't familiar with it. But I think they did a really good job, and it kind of mirrors a bit of today's, what's going on with society, but also definitely keeping it in the narrative that they have, and not overstepping and be like, okay, well, that's clearly talking about a specific person in 2019 or 2018. It keeps it in its format, but it also does a good job of acknowledging, like, hey, this is, something that's going on. This is an extreme version, but this is still something that's going on. And it's a bad thing.
I agree, yeah. I don't know what to add to that. He basically sums it up really well. But yeah, I agree. I think that it isn't really much about a war against black people and white people in this book. And it's not really about one being superior than the other. It's really just about these people who are kind of, in a sense, just like helping or educating and fixing problems that do exist, and they're tackling it in their own way, and it's a fun way of tackling sort of like a very not sort of, it is a very serious issue. But the way that the writers handle it, the way that everything is done it's just so good. And it doesn't feel like there's this weird, it doesn't leave you feeling like there's a weird divide. It's very kind of hopeful a little. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, after having read this whole first book, who do you think would be interested in reading this, or who would you recommend it to?
Can I recommend it to my young self? Jeez, I don't know. I would have loved reading this as a kid. I think it would have been super cool. But I think that I don't know, everybody. I feel like so many people could benefit from reading this. I don't think it's really more of a certain. I mean, I guess some demographics might enjoy it a little bit more than others. Especially if you're a person of color, I think that you probably really will enjoy this. But I mean, I think that it's got something for everybody, and it's really kind of. It's just it's fun kind of going back in the time of just kind of chaos and just kind of doing your own different flair with it, so.
Yeah, and I think it's, good to point out it's not a lot of books that, and this is an independent, but it's still from a pretty large independent company, but it's not a lot of books where all of the main characters, are African American. I think that's a important thing to have, we have more diversity, and it's not just the same, white guy superhero in every single comic book now. It's good that we're able to have this, and people can have representation, be able to fully identify themselves in a character, or see or be able to relate to somebody in that way. But I mean, like you said, I think it's a really cool book. It's got really good, strong, interesting characters. It has really, really great art that helps submerge you kind of in this steampunk, different off-kilter world of the 1930s Harlem and even throughout greater parts of America. I'm interested to see more of the world. At the end of the book, there is a bit of a cliffhanger that left me being all right, when's the second one coming out?
Yeah.
Because it definitely seems like while this one was plenty interesting in its own, it definitely seems like these guys have created a very interesting world that has the potential to go on for a long time, I think. So I think it would be a good read for anybody that likes good story writing, good art, and good strong characters, and monsters.
Yeah.
I think it's a good book.
And if you like interesting family dynamics, I'm usually a sucker for those. In shows or in graphic novels or books, I think this would be a good one for you too. So.
All right. Well, that was Bitterroot we reviewed for you today. John will probably be here in the next review. Who can say? He's a busy man. Like I said, got
so
2 locations now. Coming soon. Big deal. It's awesome. Please like and subscribe for this channel. Also, you get new stuff on the information, and you'll keep seeing new videos for this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.
Goodbye.